Welcome back. So, I want to talk to you today about musical memory, why it matters, why you want to develop it. Look, if you're practicing your instrument, if you're practicing ear training, if you're trying to develop as a musician, this is likely the thing that you are missing. And I'm not talking about memorizing an entire piano piece. That's something that we often do in college, where if you're a performer, especially the pianist for some reason, they make you memorize all the music. That's a little bit different. You're using techniques to try and remember the music. You're relying a lot on finger memory, and it's kind of a different technique. What I'm talking about is this ability to internalize something and keep it there and hold it there. And so this is a really important skill because research indicates that one of the greatest predictors of having a good ear is how good your musical memory is. So if I play a progression on the piano, if I play just a series of notes, which I do in the flawless course, it gets a little bit, people find it a little bit difficult. But if I do something like this, let me turn up the volume a little. So that's a pretty simple little melody. But it's going to be hard for most of us to memorize. Because it's angular. There's no stepwise motion. It's jumping all over the place. And it's not really an earworm, something that's going to stick in your ear that you're going to be able to memorize and play back later. But if you can learn to memorize just the first few notes, then that's going to be the first step in developing a really powerful musical memory. So there's this idea that the more musical information you can hold in your mind, the better you're going to get at ear training and musicianship in general. And this is something that everybody should practice no matter what their age is, trying to develop the ability to hold lots of information in the mind. So one of the things I want to talk about is if you're taking my flawless ear training course, there are dictations in there. At first, I only care that you learn how to notate what I'm playing. And so if I go like this, something like that, you can go ahead and notate it in real time. That's fine if you're still just learning how to notate music. But there's going to be a certain point where once you get the basic idea of how to notate music, I want you to sit there, starting the same note. And just listen to it. And then play it back in your mind. And listen to it again. And some of these dictations are 8 measures long. Some of them are longer than that. Some of them are 12. And so you may be thinking, I'm never going to be able to memorize everything. And so what I usually recommend is once you've attempted the dictation one time, you go ahead and you print it out and you try and go through and memorize it visually, because this does help improve your memory just a little bit. But even if you can't do that, what you do is you don't spend 3 or 4 hours on this. You spend 5 or 10 minutes max, and you listen to the notation, the dictation, you try and notate as much as you can, and then you try and play back as much as you can, and that's it. You keep track of where you ended. Did you get to the second note? Were you able to remember the first 2 notes? Great. Play those back in your mind. Could a week later you get 3 notes? Perfect. You're improving. What about a month later? Could you get 4 notes? Fantastic. Your memory is improving. And this is a long course. This is a course that just, you take it every day, you take it in stride, you go slowly, and you gradually develop your ear. But if you're doing the notations with this attitude that I don't need to get a perfect score, I don't need to memorize every single one, what I need to do is just try and do a little bit more each day. So every day you come in and you try and get 1 more note. And maybe it takes you a week, but after a week, you get that 1 more note, you're making progress. And if you can do this, if you can take this kind of relaxed attitude towards ear training, you're gonna see results. Because here's the thing. Ear training is one of those things where we are somehow brainwashed into believing it has to be perfect. The ear is never 100% perfect. It's not a machine. You're not a machine, but you can get really good at identifying things really quickly. And the way you do it is step by step. It's not by, I got 100% on this drill, I can now hear perfect fourths and perfect fifths. You know, it's not, I just passed a drill with 20 questions where they played major and minor chords. I know my major and minor chords now. You don't actually, because if you pass a drill like that, you pass that drill. You have the ability to pass that specific drill in that context, in that environment, with that level of sleep, what you ate for dinner last night, what you ate for dinner this morning or didn't eat, how well you slept, whether or not there were distractions, what the temperature was in the room. You see what I'm getting at? You need daily practice, and the environment changes each time you approach it. When you take my flawless course, what happens is the exercises are mostly the same, but they're gradually pushing you, just incrementally, step by step, to hear more and more. And you're going to probably see the best results in the first month, like in terms of growing of the ear. But after that, it continues to push you until, if you were to look back a year from now, if you were to do the flawless course every day for a year, and then you go back and you evaluate your progress, you wouldn't recognize yourself. You will sit here and you'll think, I don't know how I ever had trouble hearing a perfect fourth or a perfect fifth. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story here. I probably told this before, but I remember the first time I could clearly hear a perfect fourth and a perfect fifth. I was doing this drill that I constructed, and I was also trying to go along with another ear training program. And I was trying to compare the perfect fourth and the perfect fifth. And the ear training program basically said, keep practicing until you can get 100%. Okay. So I created this drill, and the intervals are going by very quickly, you know? And I had to identify them that fast, and it was 8 minutes. And I remember thinking at first, this is never going to work. I am never going to be able to hear those intervals at that speed. This is ridiculous. It's impossible. And I did it for a couple weeks. And then all of a sudden, I was able to pass the drill with 100%. And I remember looking back thinking, I don't know how I did that. I don't know how I ever actually had trouble hearing these intervals to begin with. And all I did was one thing. I listened to an 8-minute drill with a real piano, and I identified the intervals until I got them right. And I didn't memorize the order. I heard what they sounded like. And for the rest of my life, honestly, I never confused a perfect fifth for a perfect fourth again. And so then I realized, okay, I can do this with all the intervals. And so I started creating my own drills. But the thing that I noticed was there's more to it than just being able to identify intervals. You also have to be able to unlock things. You have to be able to get into a texture. You have to be able to be relaxed. You have to have experience in a variety of situations. You have to hear different timbres even. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that the trick to ear training is to just do it. Just press play every day. That should be a slogan. Press play every day. You know, come in, whatever ear training program you're using, go through it. But I'll caution you, if you use an ear training program that doesn't have real sounds, or at least virtual sounds. So you can listen to a program where they'll use a live recorded piano, but those sounds have been sampled. So you're getting actual pitches from a piano, but you know, they're computer generated in the sense that they've been professionally recorded, and then you're listening to them as sampled sounds. That is fine. That is perfectly fine. You don't need an acoustic piano to hear overtones. You can actually hear overtones without having an acoustic piano. It is possible. And so you just have to have the right technique, the right program, and the right progression. But most importantly, you need the right attitude. If you get sidetracked easily, it's going to be hard to develop your ear. But even if you can only spend 5 minutes a day, you come in each day and you just spend 5 minutes a day, over the course of a year, you're going to see some pretty impressive results if you just stick with it. So I'm creating this video today as just a little bit of encouragement. I want you to know that it's possible. I want you to know that you can have a good ear. And I want you to know that the secret is not so much in the program you're using. I'm biased. I prefer my program because it brings everything in that you need to develop a full rounded ear, and it goes step by step. And it's honestly the only ear training program I think you need, because it's going to eventually go into everything you need to hear: seventh chords, ninth chords, 11th chords, chord progressions, different techniques, tonal techniques. It's going to go into atonal music, serialism, stuff you think you maybe don't like. It's going to teach you how to identify and hear all of that. And you might actually find that, hey, all of a sudden, atonality, not so bad when you can hear what's going on. Because a lot of times what happens when we listen to atonal music, we don't understand it. We have different materials in atonal 12-tone music that hold the piece together. So when you have functional harmony, like tonal music, 1 4 5 1, you know, that was a progression. It started somewhere, it took you into an area of tension, it pushed you into a cadence, and it resolved it with tension and release. Tonal music does that. Atonal music doesn't do that. There is no real tension or release. So when you lose the tonal gravity of music, which is so much of the music we listen to, most of us, you need something else to take its place. And so with atonal music, you're listening for more subtle things like interval relationships, things of that nature, rhythmic activity, rhythmic development. You're listening for how motives unfold and develop. There's different things to listen for in that music that helps tie everything together, which is something I think I'll talk about at some point in the future. But what I'm getting at is you need to develop your ear first before you can appreciate, I think, more advanced music. And that emotional connection can still be there with more abstract music. It's just harder to get into. But it's worth getting into, and it's fun if you have really good ear. So I'm going to leave it at that today, and I'm going to come back and give you some additional tips as we keep going forward. I want to just encourage you, just start training today. I don't care what ear training program you use. Choose the one that works for you. If you find, like I said before in other videos, gamification, if you like having videos that or programs that give you rewards or that are set up like a game, great, do that. Take that as far as you can go. If you want something that's on an app where you can just kind of click things and test your ear on the go, do that. But do it consistently for 20 minutes a day. And when you notice a plateau, switch it up. Give the program some time. Give the program maybe a month of a plateau, because you'll be surprised at sometimes how those plateaus are just kind of like launching pads for greater achievements. But if after a month you're still plateaued, switch it up. Go to a different program. I think that novelty is important. It's just like when you're trying to do weight training, trying to build your muscles. You can do kind of the same weights for a couple weeks and see results, but then eventually you have to increase the intensity. You have to change the exercises. You need stimulation for your muscles, and you need stimulation for the ear. And that's how I designed my Flawless course, is to provide constant stimulation. There's incremental changes that will challenge you. Some of the exercises will be easy. That doesn't mean they're not working. In fact, it means they are working, because you need easy exercises. But there's always going to be one exercise, at least in each lesson, that's going to challenge you. And you're going to get frustrated because you're going to think, oh, I got to get 100%. No, you don't. You do not have to get 100%. You have to focus. You have to push yourself. You have to challenge yourself. You have to attempt it 3 consecutive days. But then you can move on and you can forget about it, because the next lesson is going to do more of the same in a different way. So it's this progressive overload, I guess you could say, for the ear. We want to continually push our ear to develop, to hear more. And it's just something we should enjoy doing. It's something we should have fun with. 20 minutes a day, if that's all you have, you can take my flawless audio course. If you have more time and you like some of these explanations, go for the full video course. One of the things that I personally like is to do the video course at the beginning of a week, and then you do the audio course for the rest of the days when you have less time, because the video course gives you a lot of explanation, and lesson 1 video, lesson 1 audio, they line up, but they train in slightly different ways. They train in a way that's specific to the video and in a way that's specific to the audio, So there's certain things I can do with audio only that isn't as necessary or applicable to video. So with video, I can show you stuff. With audio, it's got to be all mental, right? So they both serve their purpose and they work together. Videos for when you have more time, want more explanation, maybe when you get stuck. The audio is for when you just want to get in and get out. You're like, okay, you know what? I don't have time today. I don't really even want to do this, but okay, I have the audio on my phone because you can download it. I'm just going to press play. Okay. All right, thanks, Kevin. 20 minutes is up. I'm going about my day. I mean, that's how easy it is. It's 20 minutes a day. The video are more like 45 minutes. But, the other thing is, if you're looking at my offerings, don't, don't get overwhelmed. I have a lot of courses and a lot of solutions, but I recommend everybody start with the Flawless program. I've had multiple professors who teach music theory and ear training tell me they were surprised that they actually learned things from the audio course, and I've had people who have no experience with music at all get in there and start to develop their ears. So I do think it's a pretty broad course. It can apply to a lot of different people. And, you can get it pretty cheaply here on YouTube. You can start the course for free using the video if you want. But don't think too much about it, because what happens is if you start taking the Flawless course, as you go through it, you start to assess and understand what you need next. And once you've completed Unit 1, you can start to say, okay, maybe I should add audiation. So I have a few different options for audiation, and you determine which one is best for you, but you have more information. So don't get into this thing where it's like you don't know where to go from here. Just think about doing the Flawless first, and then from there, you and I can figure out what would be next for you. And I promise you, if you do end up scheduling a call with me to talk to me about this, or you email me, which is fine too, I'm not just going to push a course on you. I'm not about that. I'm going to honestly tell you, well, maybe you need to go study some rudimentary theory, and I'll give you some options for it. Or I'll say, I think you should probably just stay where you are. People that have talked to me, I don't push you into anything. I just want what's best for you. Okay? So start with Flawless. Pick an ear training course you like. David Lucas Burge is another one I like. It's a relative pitch ear training course. I don't know about the perfect pitch one, but the relative pitch one is pretty decent. You could start with that. I found that it's a good course. It's not step by step as much as I think he really did a great job doing that course. But there were some points where it just jumped so high in difficulty that even when I was going through it when I was an undergraduate, was like, okay, what's going on here? I'm confused, So there are some drastic leaps, and sometimes I'd like a little more exercises, but it's a good course. Another course that I think is pretty good, I don't know. I signed up for Tone Gym once, and I kind of like the idea behind it, but for me, I just didn't feel like it was serious enough. But I think it would have been great if I was a kid and I just wanted to kind of casually develop my ear. I think I would have liked it. What else have I looked at? Tonedear.com I thought was interesting for just the fact that you could customize the exercises and it was free. So I did like that as well. Other apps that I like, Earmaster is a good program. The university that I worked for when I was a professor, they bought it for a year and gave it to all the students. So it went through a review and they liked it. I liked that I could customize it as a professor to meet my needs, but I didn't really like the sound quality. And it was pretty decent sound quality, but you could tell they were synthesized sounds. And ultimately, if I were to give you one piece of advice, that's what you want to avoid. There's a time and place for using synthesized sounds in ear training, but you want to be careful with that because you don't want to overdo it. I was checking the time because I can only do this in a few minutes here. And synthesized sounds can be a way to kind of get into notes and hear it in a different way, but it shouldn't be the majority of the curriculum. You need either an acoustic piano or a sampled piano, which uses sampled sounds from a live piano. So it's very similar. The only difference is in a sampled piano, it's a little bit more pristine, which I actually think is really good for introductory ear training because you're getting the full breadth, you're getting the color, what I call tone awareness of the individual notes, but it is eliminating some of the extra information that can occur from less pristine environments. Like if I'm playing in an environment that's very humid, you're going to hear a lot of overtones, potentially. If I'm playing in a very dry environment, the overtones can be subdued somewhat. And when you create a program with an acoustic piano, you got to make sure it's constantly tuned. So by using sampled sounds, you actually solve a lot of problems, but it's got to be a good sample. Like when I use sampled sounds, I use East West, the Busendorfer piano. I really like that sound. And it's from a real Imperial Busendorfer piano. So it's real high quality. I also, you may be able to tell, maybe you won't, I will use a baby grand piano. I'll use a Yamaha D piano sometimes, a grand piano, and I'll use an upright sometimes. It just depends on what I'm trying to accomplish. So I use a variety of instruments in my ear training courses. And, I hope that one of them works for you or one of these other suggestions I provided works for you. The other thing I will just say is when it comes to the Unit 1 of the Video Flawless Ear Training course, I've been getting a lot of really great reviews on that. And so I'm going to put some links where you can actually purchase that. But over on Udemy, I have something like 70 reviews. I don't think I have anything below 4 stars right now. They're all like 4, 4.5, 5. And people really like the course. But to me, I was recording that kind of off the cuff. I had a plan for it. I mean, I even printed out worksheets like this. These are the exercises. This is the order to do it. This is how the whole 16-unit series is going to work out. But what I don't like about it is some of the audio quality isn't perfect. It isn't as good as it could be. But it's an 18-hour course, and I'm thinking at this point, it's better to keep going forward with the other units, finish the entire course, and then I can go back if there's enough interest and I can record Unit 1 again. But I kind of don't want to mess with what works because people are seeing results from it. It is effective. It kind of goes along with my philosophy of distractions are necessary. So if there's a little bit of static and I'm playing a note and you're like, oh, the static's in the way, listen past the static. That is a good thing. It helps you focus. And for that reason, I'm kind of on the fence about whether or not I actually need to record it again. If you want good audio quality, if that really matters to you and you think it's important, I don't. But if you think it's important, then you can go ahead and do the audio version of the course, because that is real pristine audio recorded in a much better environment. And it was actually recorded in a studio for the most part. So the audio lessons are higher quality audio if that's important to you. But I say that's not real music. Real music, you're going to have people next to you shifting music on their stand. You're going to have people in the audience shifting around. You may even have people cheering. And, you know, what happens when you try and take your ear training skills and employ them in a noisy environment? You know, you need to get used to distractions, noise, and a little bit of distortion, because real performance is messy and it's not perfect. So I'm going to leave it at that today, and I hope this was helpful. And I'm going to keep doing kind of these impromptu talks. I don't script anything. I'm adamantly against AI. You know, I think that it's going to eventually make us dumber. I think that I do these videos partially because I enjoy teaching. I enjoy keeping my mind fairly sharp. And there's nothing that keeps you on your toes like having to keeps you on your toes, like having to give a live session. So I don't edit these. I find that when you edit stuff, or if I use a script, it it sounds scripted. You don't get some of the insights that you get if I just let myself talk. So yeah, a little more rambling, but I think you get better information. So if you like this video, great. Like it, push the like button. Let me know you liked it. And I will see you at the live streams on Wednesdays. I have live streams on Wednesdays. I don't really set a time for that, but it's usually between about 11 and 2. And that's Pacific Standard Time. And then another video comes out on Friday, and I have various shorts throughout the week. Sometimes they're just one-offs. I'm walking somewhere and I'll record something. Other times it's highlights from a live stream or a video that I've created. So thank you for tuning in again, and I will see you next time. I hope this was helpful for you. Press play. Start your ear training.